Loyalism. My name's Leanne Abernethy, and we have our guests here today, our two HERstory members. We have Rhonda and Sandra. Hello to you both.
Hello.
Hello, Leanne.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good.
Good. What we're going to do today is we felt very keen that we wanted to talk about the Epilogues programme. So the Epilogues programme is a programme that 6 members of HERstory participated in over the last few months. And we just wanted to talk about what went on within it and your feelings of the programme. So before we start talking, I just want to read a little bit that's on the Epilogues website so that people watching in understands what the Epilogues programme is. So the Epilogues programme is an accessible workshop-based education programme using TV drama, film testimony and this website to engage people in everyday work of peace building and responsible citizenship. It does this by exploring, within a workshop environment that models democratic process, 6 key themes that are central to an understanding of violent political conflict: violence, loss, revenge, forgiveness, justice, and human rights. The exploration is deepened through direct engagement with the perspectives of both victims of and the various parties to the violent political conflict in and about Northern Ireland. So now everybody knows what the Epilogues programme is. I'm going to hand it over to you two to just explain a little bit more about our journey. So to begin, Jim, who runs the programme, contacted myself to see whether HERstory Women in Loyalism would be interested in taking part in the Epilogues programme. So I arranged a meeting for Jim to come down and speak to some of the women to see where we go from there. So Rhonda, I'm going to hand it over to you if you want to let everybody know.
Yeah, we had a meeting in the office with Jim and he explained roughly what it was about and that he would like 6 loyalist women to take part because he had 6 nationalist women, and sort of explain a wee bit about what the programme was about. So he showed a couple of clips of videos and most of us were quite intrigued, so we all agreed to do it. Then there was 6 of us went over 2 weekends in April to do the Epilogues course, and it was a lot of thinking, and you had to go in with an open mind and listen to everybody's point of view, and like he says, nobody was wrong, there's no wrong answers, everybody has their own opinions of things, and we realised that we actually are just similar, but we just didn't think we could speak to each other, that we would agree on anything, but as I said, we actually have more similarities than we do differences.
And Sandra, what did you think of it?
Well, I honestly didn't know what to expect when I went in, and I was quite nervous and quite quiet and didn't talk much at the start, but when I listened to the women, this, as Rhonda says, the similarities were unbelievable, and the way we were all conditioned and manipulated and, stuff like that there, and I learnt that there, and when I went in, there was a couple of the ladies that I went, oh, but they actually turned out to be 2 of the girls who would have been closest to on the national side, and lovely women. It took really the second week for me, I think, for my confidence to come up. And I was really looking forward to getting back to see the women and, how they were and all that stuff. And how their opinion had changed and how mine had actually shifted slightly. And as Rhonda says, similar in so many ways. The only thing was different was the religion as such.
Yeah.
You know.
And people came from very different backgrounds, and we want to be very mindful of Chatham House rule, which is not identifying people and their views. But did you feel that it was a safe space to have conversations and to have honest conversations about your background, your thoughts, your feelings?
Well, I felt safe eventually, you know, when I got comfortable. And I suppose the more people opened up, the more I opened up,
Yeah,
if that makes
everybody,
sense.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
everybody, the first day I think everybody was more timorous of each other, but that first night you had karaoke
Yeah, that
and that loosened a whole lot of
yeah,
people up that
that was a great night.
they had a great night.
Great night's fun. And that helped to break the barriers too.
And what was the actual program like? So, what was it you were doing during the day? Again, being mindful of what you say and not identifying anybody, but what was the program about?
Well, we were broke into wee groups and there was different conversations about different topics, you know.
We were showing film clips of people that had been involved and how it had affected them and how it has affected their life 20 years ago. And it was very, very raw when you were talking to some people, and some people you know were still very emotional about, and things still would get them. But I think the more we all opened up and talked, everybody realised, well, it's not the way we thought everything exactly
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. And do you think storytelling's a very powerful tool for looking at the past and dissecting the past?
It definitely was.
That was very important for me, I know.
Yeah, the
Definitely.
storytelling, the way it come across, I think, was very well put together. You were given the freedom to speak. You weren't told, oh no, you can't say that or whatever. Everybody was allowed to say exactly what they thought, and they weren't scared to say what they thought. You did feel,
I felt safe.
yeah,
Yeah. So whenever somebody was saying something that you didn't necessarily agree with, or you thought, that's not my perspective of that, how did that make you feel, or what did you say?
at the start it made, some of the things would have made you a little bit uncomfortable, but we were allowed to ask why they had that opinion, and we were allowed to say then what we thought, and 9 times out of 10 you found middle ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very,
And did you find that your opinions were respected as well?
Yeah,
very much so.
very much so.
Very much so. The girls that was on our weekend, they were more than willing to open their minds and listen to what we had to say, and realise, well, a lot of what they were thinking about us was wrong, and a lot of what we thought about them was wrong.
Yeah.
You know, so, and we did form some very good friendships.
That's really good. That shows that programs like that are actually really beneficial, and it does break down those barriers and those perceptions. So I'm a little bit jealous because I didn't get to go on those 2 weekends. So while you were away enjoying yourselves, I was working in the office. But it sounds like it was good and it was worthwhile. So at that stage, would you definitely promote epilogues?
Definitely.
Definitely.
The 2 weekends we had, I think because it was a small group, that it was more intimate and people were more willing to listen.
By the end of it, I think we were mixing more as well,
Yeah.
you know, rather than sitting in
We
six
did,
sauce
yeah.
and six whatever. You know, there were 2 or 3 here and we were mixing and we're talking more open actually the longer it went on.
More into their private lives as
Absolutely,
well. They were very, you know,
They're very open.
and telling us more about their own private lives.
And do you think having it as a residential worked better than just meeting, say, in the morning time and going home in the evening?
Oh, definitely.
I think it did, although normally they would have done it if they'd done it one weekend, they had a weekend off and then they done it again, but we done ours 2 weekends in a row. And I think that's maybe why we found the second weekend
So
very
tiring.
exhausting, because it's an awful lot of stuff to take in.
Yep.
But it was really good.
I enjoyed it.
It was really worth anybody wanting to do it. They should do it in that small intimate group.
That's good. What then? So we'll move on from the actual 2 weekends. So there was a follow up then where both groups met up in Belfast, and they met up with Jim, and I was along with that, so I was able to come down with you. Tell me a little bit about that and what that was all about. Why were you meeting up then?
We were sort of meeting up all the other groups that had done.
No, the first time we were up in Belfast was just to meet the six
Oh,
that we
yes,
had been
yes,
with.
yes, yes, yes.
And it was just to meet up to see how it had affected us since, had anything changed within our lives and stuff. And then, of course, there was always that wee bit of lunch. We
Aye,
always like a wee bit of lunch.
The lunch was very good, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was lovely. And it was great to see all the girls because they all came.
Yeah.
All of our girls went in all because we all did want to see each other and see how everybody was getting on and stuff.
And did you feel that any feelings had changed, or was it like walking into the room to old friends?
I felt it was walking into old friends, and you know, it was. I really enjoyed seeing them again.
You weren't walking into a group of strangers. You
No,
weren't
no,
a little bit apprehensive about wondering, oh, will they want to
No,
speak to me now or
no.
whatever.
Yeah.
It was just very relaxed,
Uh-huh.
wasn't it?
And no tension, or
No.
still felt like a safe space?
Yeah.
I think it was because it was still that small group. You know, there was just the 12 plus yourself and Jim and Eileen, and it was just like that small group, and everybody sort of knew where each other was coming from. So
Yeah.
it was.
We'd accepted each other the way we were.
It was quite
Yeah.
nice.
And we had a good chat that day about other issues. So it wasn't just about the conflict. We were talking about health, we were talking about education, we were talking about issues going on, weren't we? And finding out that we all had the same concerns over health and education and housing and cost of living and family life and holidays coming up. And
That's what we were saying. We had more similarities than we
Aye,
had differences. We all think the same thing. The only thing is we maybe went to different churches.
yeah.
But it was like they didn't see that as a problem, and neither did
No,
we really.
no.
Yeah.
You actually get to talk to somebody rather than have these preconceived ideas
Yeah.
of what you're conditioned and brought up being taught.
Yeah, and we even had a chat around the political parties, didn't we? A very broad chat, just because obviously the election's coming up soon, and we were talking about how we felt our political parties were representing communities as a whole, not just our own communities. So you were happy with that as well?
Yeah. I'm
That-
sort of. I'm at the. I'm at the stage where I'm confused. You know,
Yeah,
where do we go from here?
around politics and around Northern Ireland, and yeah, I think a lot of people are, and it's good to sit and have that conversation with people from a different nationality, and see, from the
But it was
nationalist
understood
background.
They wanted the same as we did,
Yeah.
more or
They
less.
wanted things to change the same
Yeah.
as we did, but it's actually finding a political party that wants to push to get what the people want, not just the same old, same old.
Yeah, yeah. And we even had discussions around the Legacy Act and things like that. But we'll move on then. So then this week, so this is now Thursday, and on Tuesday we had went down to Belfast for the final gathering of Epilogues to do with yourselves. So can I hand over to yourselves, whoever wants to go first, and start off talking about that? And what was it?
It was a culmination of everybody that had taken part over the last 20 years. And the Epilogues programme, there was quite a few people there. I do feel we were a minority in the room. It seemed to be going all right, but there was a few of the questions and answers to the panel, and one particular question to one of the panel I actually felt was a little, I don't know what the word would be, I thought she was very sore on him as such that she was actually blaming him for things that
Yeah.
was out of his control. And whenever there was a response to the fact that, there was actually a murderer, an IRA murderer sitting on the stage, and he
Yeah.
wasn't questioned about anything. I felt that the facilitators let it go too far. They could, like said, right, we'll just take the microphone off the person. But they let it go on, which caused an awful lot of tension in the
Yeah,
room.
definitely.
And I do feel that a lot of the good that has come out of Epilogues, that actually would have caused damage to people's perspective. We had a brilliant experience on Epilogues, but obviously some people are still venomous towards the British forces, actually, she was blaming.
Okay, so just to clarify, the gathering that happened the other day was people over the last few years that engaged with Epilogues. That was part of the women's engagement with Epilogues. That's why it was all women in the room. So I think it was 2021 to 2024. And the panelists were people who were in the videos that you watched whenever you're on your residential, and they were taken over 20 years ago. So there was 4 panelists up talking, and one of them was had been an IRA member. One was British Security Forces. Then we had somebody who had lost her brother in Bloody Sunday, and then we had a gentleman that had lost his son in the Oma bombing. So those were the 4 people on the panel. And whenever you were saying, Rhonda, that this person was speaking and they were speaking to the person from the British Security Forces, was that a lone voice in the audience, or do you think there was more than that?
No, I think there was more than that, because it was like a lot of the people were like applauding her for saying this. You know, there was a lot of people sitting nodding their heads that, yeah, you did look at us like we were dirt and whatever. And I felt she was being, she like victimised him. You know, it was like she was personally blaming him for everything that had happened, and that the security forces were all in the wrong and always were in the wrong.
And how did you feel, Sandra, about what happened on Tuesday?
I was actually quite angry. And I really, in total honesty, didn't say very much because I was scared of my own reaction, you know. And but to me, the way that person was verbally attacked was absolutely out of order, you know, especially under the circumstances of who else was on the panel, you know. And they sort of lost the outlook of what we were supposed to be there for. Like, there was 2 people who had lost family through no fault of their own, and then nobody seemed to focus on them and their loss, and, you know, like innocent people that did nothing wrong. And yet, as you say, there was somebody else sitting on the panel that knew what they were doing. But for that security force, put it that way, I felt so sorry for him. But it done brilliant.
He did,
You know, he really answered her. He was very honest. And well, I go speak personally, what I didn't realise was the trauma that had left behind in that one person's life, you know, and how bad it was for them over here, you know. And I didn't realise, I don't know about anybody else, but I didn't realise what them fellas went through when they were over here.
Yeah, and there was one lady from the national side said she actually seen how the soldiers were treated by their superiors, and she was mortified. She just wanted the ground to open up, and she said she could understand that. And then another one, she was saying that her family, her mama used to send her down with sandwiches to the soldiers.
So I was at that, and I didn't feel that it was a safe space on that day. So I know you were both saying that the other events all felt like a safe space to yourselves to talk. What were your feelings? Did you think it was a safe space on Tuesday?
No, I wouldn't have said anything on Tuesday at all. I didn't actually say anything on Tuesday.
I wasn't comfortable.
I felt
We
intimidated.
weren't comfortable in the room, and then whenever there was a lady at my table was talking about her husband had taken his life due to the stresses of being in the forces.
Yeah.
And another lady saying that her children from the age of 3 were looking below their daddy's car to see if there was a bomb. You think, nobody thinks of that, but it was
No.
just, well, that was your choice.
Yeah.
But it's not your choice.
It wasn't the
to do-
children's choice.
No.
I personally, my own views on this was I was very disappointed by Tuesday's conference. I felt that it was an anti-British conference. I felt it was directing all the problems of the Troubles onto the security forces. And I felt really uncomfortable in the room. And I do speak my mind quite a lot, but even I felt really uncomfortable. And whenever I did speak, somebody behind me was shouting at me as I spoke, which put me off. But I did feel sorry for the British soldier. And I felt sorry for him because he was being attacked. He was being verbally attacked, not physically attacked. But there was people saying, why? What made you get up in the morning and join? In disgust. But yet there was an IRA man sitting there, and not one person asked him what made him get up in the morning and decide to join an organisation, a terrorist organisation that went out and murdered people. But it nearly felt like the IRA was being glorified by people in the room. I'm not saying being glorified by epilogues, but being glorified by people in the room, and it was allowed to happen. And that really, it disappointed and it upset me. And unfortunately, one of the facilitators did say that he put on an equal footing the IRA and the British government. What was your views on that comment?
Totally disagree. For start, IRA was illegal.
For him to be the facilitator,
Yeah,
he
it was out of order.
Because the IRA was an illegal organisation. The army was here to try to keep law and order. So how can he put the IRA in par with the security forces?
Yeah.
It just didn't make sense
Didn't
at
make
all.
any
And
sense.
it just shows you he's probably not as open as he wants everybody to think he is.
Yeah, I felt that it, like I said, it wasn't a safe space. I also felt not comfortable to put a point across and to have my own opinion and to have that opinion respected in that room. I don't think my opinion was respected. I also had, there was people there that were saying they blame the British government, they blame the British security forces, they blame the RUC for the Troubles and what happened, and that the IRA was born out of a consequence of a number of things. Now, that's fair enough. I totally disagree with that. I completely do not agree in any shape or form, but I respect that that is their belief and I respect that that is their opinion. But I felt that opinion was being forced on me on Tuesday, and to disagree with that, you were the pariah in the room, and I felt really uncomfortable. And if that is peace building, I have real concerns about the future of peace building. Is it peace building at a cost? Is it peace building as long as you agree with a Republican agenda? So the question sort of is, what is peace building? It's made me relook at what people define as peace building, if that's what it is.
Yeah, as I say, some people got good out of epilogues, and listening to that woman attack the soldier, she got nothing out of it. Or she was too close-minded to even think anybody else had an opinion.
Yeah.
Because that was just her opinion. She just thought he was in the wrong. How could he ever choose to be in the British Army, knowing he might have to shoot somebody? Well, like, the way she just attacked him. And leading up to that, he had told him, that he has had a tumultuous life with this, that and the other, and born out of all these traumas and stuff, but it was like there was no empathy for him or understanding.
No, they didn't care.
The other thing that actually stuck with me was the woman that was sitting at the table that asked your man whose son was killed in the Oma bomb, well, did they not get a warning? Well, that's not something you would say to a man who lost his son. You know, why are you picking awkward questions?
Yeah.
I actually did feel sorry for him. And he did say later on that he had shed a tear or two, which I thought was, you know, after all this time, how somebody could even say that to somebody that had lost a child. You know, because nobody knows unless they've lost a child that heartbreak. But they felt it was all right to ask questions like that, and I really did feel sorry for him. Again, it was pro-nationalist. It was, you know, because obviously it was the IRA planted the bomb, but it was like they were trying to say, oh well, there was a warning. They should have been out of there. And you're like, but there shouldn't have been a bomb.
There shouldn't have been a bomb in the first
Yeah.
place.
And I think that's it. And I think it's very much, it depends what side of the fence you come. Are you unionist, nationalist, loyalist, Republican? Where we would sit and say, as you've just said, there was a bomb in Oma. The people to blame for that bomb is the people that planted the bomb.
Yeah.
It's not the security forces. So instead of asking the questions as to did the security forces mess up, the real question is, why was there a bomb?
Yeah.
And blame the people that planted the bomb.
She seemed to forget that, you know, well, the IRA planted the bomb. Why did they plant the bomb? You know, that wasn't asked. It was just like, well, it shouldn't have been there.
Innocent
Innocent people
people.
that
And it's
suffered.
like that man said, when his son was leaving that day, he said, I'll not be long.
Yeah, that's
Which
right.
is a saying they never say in their house anymore.
Yeah,
He said that, you know, and you felt really...
yeah.
you know,
It was
you did-
heartbreaking.
You did feel for him.
But where you had that panel of 4 people that we could have learned a lot from,
Yes.
it turned into tension and it turned into an attack on a British soldier.
It really did be, as you say, uncomfortable. You know, you nearly got your hackles up because you did feel like you were outnumbered and that they didn't respect us at all.
No, definitely not.
A lot of them, it was...
We were scared to say anything really, you know, to say what you really felt. You know what I mean? And there was somebody did ask the IRA man about did he think anything about the families or anything before and he said no. He had no empathy, no feeling, no.
And that wasn't examined any further
No.
within it. That was
No.
just the answer and
That
that
was
was
it.
it. It was move on.
Yeah.
So from that event on Tuesday, has that changed your view of epilogues?
It's changed mine.
I don't think it's changed
It's
my
changed
view
mine.
on the epilogues. I think it's a lot to do with the people that done the epilogues, and the facilitator, I think, had absolutely no control of what was going on and let it run away, way further than it should have done. You know, it should have been nipped in the bud before she even got half of the stuff out, but she was allowed to go on, which really did upset a lot of people in the room.
Yeah, and I think it is that thing. It's a fine line, you know, respecting people's opinions, but, you know, and having your own opinion respected, but being careful that does your opinion, is it going to offend and traumatize other people in the room? And I think that's what it actually did. And, you know, the people are entitled to their opinion and I will respect that opinion, but it felt inappropriate.
I honestly think we think more about it than anybody else. We're the ones that are worried about offending people, so we tend not to say too much. But when you're in a situation like that, you're never going to have them understand what you're saying. They're just going, well, not listening. You know, their view's the only view. And it is a shame because the Epilogues course was good.
Oh, it was
It really
good.
was, and it was knowledgeable.
It hasn't changed my mind about any of the girls we were with.
No, and
Definitely
they were
not.
the same, like, you know.
And they're the same.
They definitely were a great bunch of girls. And we do keep in touch. But as I say, the facilitators
Nah, it just was.
just didn't have control.
Didn't
of
have
the
control of it at all.
situation. They were a wee bit too laid back.
So I think gathering from what we've talked about here, the feeling from you both is that the Epilogues program itself was really good, but the Epilogues conference was not so good.
No.
It was
That's
a total
right.
disaster, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I really couldn't wait to get out of it. I just wasn't comfortable at
No,
all.
I wasn't comfortable.
So, I know they supplied lunch, but we had lunch and that was it. We were out the door.
Yeah,
You know,
I didn't hang
because
about either.
We didn't hang about because, as I said, we didn't feel welcome. You know, whenever you went in, you were sort of made welcome. But whenever they started going around the tables, like, there really only was maybe 2 or 3 tables that there was unionist community at. The rest of it seemed to be nationalist community. And it seemed that their thoughts were more important than ours.
Yeah.
And we were shot down every time like you did stand up and say something. And as you said, there was a woman shouting at you and other ones were sitting scoffing, and I was like, you're never going to get them to listen because
No.
they don't want to listen.
They don't want to learn.
And that's that thing then of when you're sitting in a room and you feel that you're in the minority and you feel that people aren't going to respect your opinion, do you still voice it because you feel strongly enough about it, or do you keep silent?
I kept silent now, I have to say.
To be honest, we all felt intimidated, I think.
I felt intimidated.
Made me tend not to say too much because the epilogues is supposed to like open up your mind and broaden your horizons and have a better understanding of everything. But some people it just didn't seem to click with them.
I just
They
wasn't
were
comfortable.
It was like a vendetta. You know, they were just bitter. And it was not comfortable.
No, it wasn't nice.
It wouldn't have been somewhere you would have felt comfortable getting up to say something. You know, yes, I do feel strongly about some things, but it's better to be, what's the word, tactful, because as you say, we were outnumbered and it wasn't a very welcoming place to be.
Well, thank you very much, ladies. So, Epilogues program good, conference not so good. But if you were speaking to another unionist or loyalist woman now and they said, I'm thinking of doing the Epilogues program, would you recommend it to them?
I would recommend the programme itself.
Definitely,
So
yes.
I would,
Yes.
definitely, because it was good. You did feel safe. You did, you know. The conference was totally opposite.
A lot of knowledge was gained over,
Very much
over
so.
the 2 weekends, and there's still a lot comes out of it because there's wee bits and pieces that you can go into their website and look up stuff, and it does give you a curiosity to find out more
Yeah.
about some of the things that happened that maybe we weren't even sure about or whatever, but it did give us a wee quest
Aye. Although now,
for,
Tuesday affected me.
yeah.
Definitely did.
Well, I'm very sorry that it did affect you like that, Sandra. And I think that shows to anybody listening that tolerance and respect is key in absolutely everything, and particularly in peace building, especially when we're in a society that is still so divided and that we do have very strong views, but views must be respected. And if you're willing to give a very strong view, you have to understand that somebody else is going to have a strong opposing view, and it's not fair to shut that down and treat them as if they're wrong. So anybody listening in today, please respect the views of our ladies and the members of HERstory. Just because it might be different from what you think doesn't mean that it's wrong. Any final words, ladies?
No, just that
Just,
we enjoyed it.
we did enjoy the epilogues, the weekends.
The reunion wasn't just,
Put a damper on it a wee bit.
yeah, it sort of spoiled it a wee bit.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for listening in. Bye.